pass international exams, very often there are different steps: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Today, first of all, I want you to train and to maybe improve your skills in reading, because very often it's bulky, very long texts, and you can be at a loss. So many words that you don't know, right? And you can feel at a loss. What does it mean? I don't know what it means, and actually I can't guess the meaning of the word. And here there is a kind of a game that it's like a riddle. You guess the meaning by the context, and then we sum up the information. Okay? First of all, I want you also to have these handouts. Could you please have some handouts? You will need them during the master class. So it's look at the screens. Yes, it's riddle number 4, for example. Who can read it for me? What's your name, by the way?
Anya.
Anya, will you start, please? In class.
In class, Julia was so cantankerous that her grumpy behavior negatively affected everyone.
Can you guess what is the meaning of cantankerous? It's positive or negative?
It's negative.
Negative. How did you guess? How did you guess that it's negative? What words maybe or structures helped you? Grumpy behavior and negative. Yes, negatively affected. Right, you are. And this is how you should not understand this word, 100%, but you know that it is something negative. And it will help you in the further understanding of the text. So, cantankerous means grouchy or ill-tempered with very bad character, right? And context clue was a synonym or a statement. Synonym, we said that grumpy behavior and negatively affected everyone, right? So, riddle number 5. What's your name, by the way?
Angelica.
Angelica, yes, please.
Can you define the unfamiliar word? The wallabies at the zoo looked like kangaroos.
Kangaroos, yeah.
Can you name the specific contact clue that help you?
So, can you define who are wallabies?
Specific contact clue?
No, it's wallaby at the zoo looked like kangaroo. So they looked like kangaroo. So wallabies, they are maybe similar to kangaroo, don't you think?
Yes.
So it's an animal that's very similar to kangaroo. Actually, this animal is similar to kangaroo, and this is another kind of kangaroo. Here, a wallaby is a small kangaroo, and the context clue could be the example or inference as well. Yes? Okay. So, riddle number 6. What is your name?
Sergey.
Sergey, will you please?
Can you define the unfamiliar words? Can you name the specific context to some city
Dwellers.
dwellers are affluent, others live in poverty?
Poverty, yes, okay. Affluent. So can you guess what's the meaning of affluent is? Others live in poverty. So in English it's a rich person, a wealthy person, right? How did you guess? So there is a comparison. There is maybe not a comparison, but an antonym, right? Because others live in poverty. Contrast. Okay, so here is the answer. You were right. The definition of affluent is rich and wealthy, and the context clue is contrast, right? That helped you. And the last one here, again, the example is given on the right. Will you please?
We have new girl, maybe. Okay.
Okay, so what's your name, by the way?
Alina.
Alina, will you please read the sentence on the right?
Most
Condiments.
condiments such as pepper, mustard, and
Ketchup.
ketchup used to improve the flavor of foods.
Flavor of foods, yes. Okay, can you guess what condiment is?
Or maybe it's raw ingredients.
Some ingredient, and maybe you know what pepper, mustard, ketchup are. These are the things that what? Improve the flavor of foods, right here? Yes? Improve the flavor of food. So this is something that we add to our dish to make it more tasty. Yes? A condiment is a flavor enhancer used to spice up foods, and the context clue was an example. And here I should say that the sentences, each sentence contained some word that was unfamiliar to you, but we always could guess. The only thing is that not to hurry up, yes, and to concentrate on the context. Okay, so what is a context clue then? Why a context clue important? Here you can see that they helped us define unfamiliar, difficult words. They help us to become better and perceptive readers. Do you agree with it?
Yes.
Okay. They come in handy during tests when a dictionary or internet is not available. Yes?
That's
Because
right.
very often, yes, you are, not often, even always, you have to show your knowledge without these sources. And where are the context clues found? In the same sentence, for example, as a difficult, where the difficult and unfamiliar word. In the same paragraph, it could be a passage, yes? And context clues can be in the sentences following the word. You can always look at the surrounding sentences. So be attentive. And they are called context clues because they are found in the context of the sentences or passage. And the definition, yes, if it is a definition, for example, context clue number 1. Read the information, please, Julia.
The
Unfamiliar.
unfamiliar word is directly defined in the sentence in which it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Definitions are usually set off by commas or dashes
Commas or dashes, we had such an example here, right? Mm-hmm.
and may include the use of the words as or that is and in other words.
In other words, when you see these words, it means that there is always a definition nearby. And the example.
Example, apples, red fruits that grow on trees are made teachers' favorite food.
Just imagine that you don't know the word apple when you see such an explanation. Red fruits that grow on trees. You will understand, yes, that it's a fruit and it grows on trees. Okay, so the next one. The context clue number 2 is called antonym or contrast. Antonym or contrast. Will you please? Yes, yes, they are familiar. The rule, the rule. Mm-hmm.
Unfamiliar word is defined by using the words opposite or contrasting meaning. Describe the context usually includes the words
Whereas,
unlike, as opposite to,
opposed to.
as opposed to, however, in contrast to, but on the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
Example, I like Jan, who was easygoing. Jackie was
Fastidious.
serious.
Okay, again, fastidious is an unknown word, I think. Yes? Easygoing, it's more or less familiar. So can you guess what's the meaning of fastidious here? Negative or positive?
Negative.
Negative. So you understand that it's negative. And who is a good person? Jan or Jackie here?
I think Jan.
Jan. And Jackie has difficult character, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the next one. Context clue number 3. It's a synonym or a statement. Synonym or a statement. Sergey, yes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, please. Mhm.
Words with similar meanings are used within the same sentence or around the unfamiliar word. For example, Santa Claus was so portly that his doctor declared him overweight.
Yes. Do you know any of these words? Overweight or portly?
Overweight.
Yes, overweight. What does it mean? Can you explain it in English?
In English, yes.
In English.
Um,
With what? Heavy person who is a little bit fat. Yes? Okay, and portly, it's actually defined as a person with excessive kilograms, right? Who is a little bit plump or fat. Okay, and context clue number 4, inference here. Inference. Who wants? Any volunteers? The newcomer, please. What's your name?
Nikita.
Nikita, will you please?
Word meanings are not
Directly.
stated in the text, but definitions of unfamiliar words can be assumed by both prior knowledge and the context in which the word sits.
The context, right? And prior words. So pay attention. Example.
For example, she was so famished that people felt sorry for her and gave her food to eat.
You see? Can you guess the word famished? What was so special about the girl that people felt sorry for her and gave her food to eat? What do you think the word famished means? And food to eat. Hungry maybe. Yes? Hungry and exhausted. Starving. That's why it's the meaning of the word famished, because there is inference here, explanation. And this is the summary, yes? Synonym, antonym, inference, and definition. If you say forget it someday, you can only remember the acronym SAID. Synonym, antonym, inference, definition. You see? If, for example, you remember this word SAID, you can always remember what types of context clue there can be. And one more, it's a little bit more complicated because it refers to your general knowledge. General knowledge, it means, guys, that you should read books, watch different programs, and develop your brain in different perspectives. And that's why always try to think it over and try to think hard before taking a decision of whether this or that word is familiar or unfamiliar to you. Let's try. For example, what is the meaning of the word abate? Here you see 2 examples. They are not connected with each other, 2 different contexts, but one of the contexts may help you guess this word. So, Angelica? What's your name, by the way?
Alice.
Alice, sorry. Please.
Below this question, right?
Yes, yes.
Physicians usually allow football players to resume play once symptoms abate, perhaps within days.
And the second one?
For the sailors, the wind continued to abate and you could feel their frustration.
Yes. Here we have 2 groups of people. Sailors and maybe 3. Physicians and football players. Is there anyone here who is good at football? I think maybe boys, yes? So maybe can help us. When can they restart playing? If the symptoms abate, can you guess symptoms? Okay, for example, you hurt your leg and they're very strong, and of course the physicians, the doctors say you should not play, you mustn't play, or you may finish your football career. But symptoms abate and you can resume your play. So become what?
Recover.
Yes, when you are healing, when you are recovering and the symptoms are smaller, right? Reduced. The same, we check, okay, we check our supposition with the second example. The sailors who are what? Sailing in a boat and going, for example, to the sea, yes, to the ocean and so on. The wind continued to abate and they felt frustrated. Frustrated, it's when they don't know what to do. Can you imagine a sailor and
discounts.
Once again?
Discounts.
To wind continued to be stronger.
When the wind is strong, do you think that the sailor is at a loss and just looking at the wind and saying, I don't know what to do. I'm a sailor, but I don't know what to do when the wind is strong? No,
No,
they
no.
begin to act very quickly. Yes, it's very usual. They know what to do when there is a storm or something. And on the contrast, when there is no wind, the sailors don't know what to do because their boat won't move. Agree?
Yes.
So you give it only a little bit of anticipation and a little bit of thinking, and then you understand that okay, a bait is becoming what? Less or smaller, yes,
Less.
reducing. That's why you got the meaning of this word. The second one, I think it is even more familiar to you. It's surrogate, right? Read it through. The two examples. Julia, will you? The
A
patient.
patient or his or her
Legal.
surrogate may also refuse the
Artificial.
administration of food and fruit
Mm-hmm.
through a feeding
Tube. So this example is a bit sad. It's about the patient when the patient is terminally ill and can't take decisions. Maybe the patient is unconscious, can't understand where he is or she is, and maybe doesn't move. There is a person, legal surrogate, who can take these decisions for this person. This is the first example. And the second, Julia.
A machine that's going to land on the surface, and it's
Essentially,
a surrogate for a human geologist exploring Mars.
right. A surrogate for a human geologist exploring Mars. It means that not a geologist comes, but something what? Instead of this geologist, a machine. So, can you define the word surrogate then? Can you give me the definition in English? This is something, or
This is like a robot.
a robot, or maybe not always. This is something or somewhat, yes? Some person or something that what? Can work instead of someone, right? And this is the meaning, right? But our knowledge, general knowledge, helped us. So, and once again, if we try to sum it up, once again, we can decipher the meaning of unknown words by using context clues such as synonyms, examples, opposites, and our general knowledge. Agree with me? Do you agree? Okay, great. The next one, the context is the source of hints. Hints, it's something that can help, that will help you determine the meaning of an unknown word. Agree?
Agree.
Context may help, yes. And you should not employ the dictionary every time, because dictionary actually makes it easier, but your brain is lazy when there is a dictionary. Think it over, yeah? And it will train your brain and improve your knowledge. And number 4, at this point, the dictionary should only be used for verifying your conclusions and suppositions from our text analysis. Agree? Okay. So, and some more.
What is it verifying?
Proof, check.
Proof.
When you want to check, yes. So, and now please, you have the handouts. I want you to look at the second task here. This is the text, and I will give you some theory again. Sometimes it's not the context clue that can help, but some other things. We call them, I will tell you now, we call them signposting. Signposting is something that serves as a clue or indication. It means that we sometimes, okay, we don't need to guess the meaning of the word, but we need to guess what will happen next. Okay, and we should see the connection, because in the unified state exam you have such a task when you have the text and parts of the sentences are absent. Remember? And in FCE, for example, exam, also you have such a text when the can you please have another handout, guys, to the boy there. Another, for example, situation when we read a bulky text and we lose the contact. We don't understand, yes, where it goes and what comes next and so on. Signposting can help. So something that serves as a clue or indication. And I will teach you how to see this signposting. So signposts can look backwards at a point already, for example, raised. When you have such phrases, this suggestion, these ideas, this brief outline, such proposals, it means that it was already mentioned. Agree? It was already mentioned, and where you should go? Further reading the text, or maybe backwards to find what was mentioned? Backwards, right you are. So, signposts also, some signs, can look forwards. For example, in this section I will, or a recent study suggests, or one important recent finding indicates that. What does it mean? So that we will have some explanation in the next abstracts, for example, right? And here you can look where? Backwards or forwards?
Forwards.
Forwards, of course. Some signposting can go in both directions at the same time. You see, despite these reports mentioned already, other writers have proposed and they express what they propose. This view has been rejected, this view mentioned already, but by some authors who claim that, and their claims are going to be pronounced, right? Why is it important? Because when, for example, you have a text and some abstracts are missing, you can see this signposting in different parts, in the parts that are still in the text and in the parts they are in the task. And you can connect them. Okay, I'll explain what I mean. Now, please, look at this text. Look at these passages and underline any signposts. Do they look forwards, backwards, or in both directions? So, let's do it in chain. Will you start, please? Read
Passage A?
Yes, passage A, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Despite this difficulty, many theorists have been proposed to explain this result, but the evidence has proved to be
Elusive. Let's talk here, and even here you can see some signposting.
I need to choose this?
Some signposting, for example, despite this difficulty, do you agree that something has already been mentioned?
Yes.
This difficulty.
Yes.
It's going backwards or forwards? What do you think? Backwards, of course. And next, the results. Yes, the evidence has proved to be elusive. Evidence has proved.
Yes.
It's already happened.
Yes, happened.
It's backwards or forwards?
Backwards.
Backwards, of course. Yes. Next one sentence. However, read it, please.
However, this doesn't mean that the theories can be discounted. The following chapter will explore the evidence in more detail.
If we speak about however, this again doesn't mean it's backwards or forwards.
I think forwards.
These mentioned already. Doesn't
Backwards.
yes, backwards. And the following chapter, the following that will only follow. This is signposting where? Backwards or forwards? Forwards. And you see, this is in every in every abstract, and you can see these signposts everywhere. And now I will prove it to you. The text here, you can see the text. This is the typical task of FCE part reading. This is the gapped text, right? When you see the text with some gaps and some sentences that you should fulfill, I will give you some time. You will find the correct answers and also look through this text and find some signposting. Okay?
Where?
Okay, take the text, yes, on the right. It's part 6, gap text. Found it here. Take some time to do it. Look it through. If someone is ready already with the first the number 1, you're welcome. And also explain what helped you to find the correct answer. Okay, let's do it together. I think that together it will be more entertaining for you. So, once again, I always forget your name.
Alice.
Alice, please, will you start?
From John Prince, right?
Mm-hmm.
John Prince, famous dancer and choreographer, gives advice on how to succeed in a career in the arts.
Mm-hmm.
I asked John how he got started and what requirements there are. Well, to be a professional dancer, it's useful to have had acting lessons or some background in drama. If you want to succeed in musical theater, you have to have a good singing voice as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you approach an agent, you should take a portfolio with your CV, your statistics sheet, and some good photos and reviews of past performances. You will need dance clothes, ballet shoes, tap shoes, and even roller skates depending on what kind of show you are going to go for.
Mm-hmm. So the abstract ends in enumerating. Once again, dance clothes, ballet shoes, tap shoes, and all these things you will need, and only then you can go to this interview. And what is the letter that best suits this answer? A, B, C, D, E, F, or G? Look it through. What is logical after this enumeration? So you are a future dancer. You've got all the things that you need. G, why? Can you announce it, by the way? Read it, please, Julia.
Being fully
Equipped.
equipped with all this stuff beforehand makes it easier when you go for auditions.
Auditions, right. Auditions, the same as interview, right? And also, there is a signpost. Can you find it? Here it is. Fully equipped with all this stuff. All this stuff was mentioned before. Agree, guys?
Yes.
It was mentioned, all these ballet shoes, dance clothes, and so on. And that's why we can see there is an interconnection between this first abstract and the example. Next abstract starts. Next abstract. Of course, the boy over there, once again, what's your name?
Nikita.
Nikit, will you do the task 2?
Of course, you need to be extremely fit if you want to be a professional dancer.
Mm-hmm.
I dance or move about 6 hours a day. There are great health benefits to being a dancer.
Dancer. Mm-hmm.
I can eat a lot of pasta without gaining weight because dancing increases your metabolism so much.
Mm-hmm. So he was speaking about movement, about being active, and so on. Now look through the variants that we have. So we excluded G. We have A, B, C, D, E, F. Then what will be your answer? What do you think? So he was speaking about keeping fit. But physical health, it's not the whole health. You should also feel healthy what? Mentally maybe, right? It's E, yes, E. Nikit, will you read it please?
When it comes to coping with stress, I find That exercise helps me to cope with my problems, so I stay in good shape mentally as well.
You see, two facets of health, physical and mental. Logical? Logical. And signposting again backwards, right? Next one. Next abstract starts. John has a very busy schedule. Your name is? Sergey. Sorry. Yes, please.
He took time to speak to me
John has a very busy schedule, this one.
in the next few months. He took time out to speak to me today from the making of a pop video to promote Energy's latest record. A choreographed that dance routine for the boys, and they only had 2 days in which to learn it. I'm going to be working on a video for another well-known band, but that's top secret. Next morning, I'll be touring Spain in the production of a musical that was written by the friend of mine, Michael Evans.
You see, he is enumerating what he has been doing and what maybe he is going to do and so on. So, first of all, I choreographed the dance routine, then had 2 days to learn it, then he is going to work on a video, then he'll be touring Spain. Maybe it's logical that he will continue enumerating, right? If it is the end of the abstract. It is logical that he will continue enumerating his activity. Where you can find it? In the variance.
Maybe C.
Enumerating activity as well. What he is going to do. His plans in his and his timetable. So he will tour, first of all, to Spain, and then maybe what? Don't you think that, for example, it's D?
Maybe D.
Yes, it's after that it's back to England to start a new term of dance classes. Do you see the logic here? It's enumeration of activities, right? You should be very attentive to what is mentioned here. So first of all he does this, the second he does this, then he is going to do this, and logically something else.
Yes.
And here is the logic. If you follow it, it is very easy. Just try to switch it on, okay? So let's continue. Number 4. John was born in Jamaica. Alice, will you?
John was born in Jamaica to a Jamaican father and a Scottish mother, but the family immigrated to England 20 years ago. I have a little sister I adore, who is also training to be a dancer. How does it feel to have someone else following in your footsteps?
You see, this is a question that someone asks him. Maybe it's logical that this should be the answer. Where is the answer to this question in this variance?
B.
And we start our answer with and? No, we can't answer and. It's logical that it's A, right? Nikita said it. Yes, Nikita, will you announce it?
It's fine, but I try not to give out too much advice as it gets
Irritating. Yes, there was the question, so look for the answer, and here is the answer. It's very easy. It will take you only a few seconds to fulfill. So the next one, point 5. What's your name once again?
Anya.
Anya, will you? Has he much more
Has
to
he
know?
much more to learn, I wondered. I've spent an incredible amount of my life training to get where I am. I went to college for 2 years in England, I trained for 6 months in Paris and about 8 months in America. But you never really stop training or learning your art.
You see the last sentence. You never really stop training or learning your art. What can be the continuation of this?
F.
read it please for us.
Like any profession where you're always traveling, you tend to acquire something new almost every day.
It's not about traveling. It's not about traveling because I guess that maybe you are right. Once again, prove it please. Anne, can you prove it? So it was about traveling actually. It was because first of all it was England, then it was America, Paris, America. Right, you are. Yes, you were even more shrewd than I here. So it's like any profession where you are always traveling. Right, you are. This is the right answer. This is F. And the last abstract. The last abstract we have. So would you say, Sergey?
So would you say it's been plain sailing? I feel I've been lucky to a degree. Many people had problems breaking into the arts. It can be a vicious circle really. You can't become a member of equity, which is the actors and dancers.
Union
without good contrasts, and you can't get good contrasts without being a member of
equity.
My advice to people who want to get into the arts would be to go out into the world and try everyone else first.
Go out into the world and try everything else first. So it's like the phrase that is not finished. How can you finish it? Look it through. I mean, look through the answers and try. Right. And if nothing you like comes out of it, right? Because it's like continuation of this phrase. Very logical. Read it, please, till the end.
And if nothing you like comes out of it, then came back and be an actual dancer.
Thank you. Tell me, please, guys, was it your first experience of doing such a task? Not the first one, but Nikit, I will ask you then. Did this knowledge about signposting and context clues help you somehow?
Yes.
A little bit at least, right? Then if it helped, I'm happy, because I'm here just to make it easier for you, yes, to pass this exam. So this is one first step now is terminated here, because reading, I think that is finished. I mean concluded, because I've mentioned everything I wanted. The context clues you should learn, and you should pay attention to them every time you read a text, no matter how short or long it is. Okay? Will you promise it to me?
Yes.
Right. Then we pass to another step, and this is speaking. So speaking.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Speaking. So, and the next one, it's about speaking. What about speaking? Do you have any problems speaking, guys? Do you have any problems speaking?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
What are they?
I'm a little nervous when I'm speaking on English, because sometimes I can't say right some parts.
Saying any words right?
Yes.
If we speak about speaking parts in FCE, it contains 4 parts. The first one, when you enter, and this is the questions that the examiner asks you. It's only maybe some questions, some simple questions, for example, like, where are you from? Yes, it'll tell me something about your family. It's very easy questions. Or what did you enjoy most when you were at primary school, for example. But what and how should you answer here? One word only, one sentence. What will be the optimum? What do you think?
Complete sentence, phrase, not just word.
Some sentences are even tricky, and questions are tricky, because they just ask, do you like this? Yes? Or don't you like this? And you can say, yes, I do. Or no, I don't. But this is not enough. because the examiner will need more information. And one of the tips, yes, how to answer this question is to give full answers to the examiner, yes, and avoid giving short, uncommunicative replies. That, for example, only one phrase and you stop. For example, let's try to have some practice. Nikit, the first question: where are you from? How can you answer this question? Where are you from?
I'm from Russia.
Russia, and then you should not terminate here. Continue.
Minsk district.
And I've been born there, right?
Yes.
Yes, and I love this city very much. Yes? Okay, so this is the answer that you just prolong this answer and 3-4 sentences you give. Tell me something about your family, Alice.
My family is, I have very good family. My family, first of all, is my mother and my auntie with my cousins.
Good answer. You see, not one sentence. She got involved and gave 3 or 4 sentences even. This is a good answer. Okay, thank you. Julia, what did you enjoy most when you were at primary school? Primary school, it's the first, the second, the third grade. What did you enjoy most when you went to the primary school?
Okay. In primary school, I enjoyed painting.
Painting.
Yeah,
Painting.
painting and maybe literature. Because I like to read and something about art.
Something about art. Okay, so you see, because when you answer, the examiner won't show you continue. He will just be satisfied with what you say, but the only thing is that the score will be low. And in this case, you are to continue yourself, right? Don't forget about it. Sergey, do you have any plans for a holiday this year?
I have a few plans on my holidays. I want to go to Moscow to walk, to go for a walk.
For a walk in Moscow?
Yeah.
For the whole holidays?
Not.
Okay, so it's like one part. So, okay, 2 sentences, but you may continue.
I like to visit some interesting place in Moscow and then maybe travel by the country.
To the countryside, you mean?
Not.
To another country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you see, the answer should be developed,
Yes.
right? And Anne, do you play any musical instruments?
No, I don't play any musical instruments, but my little sister enjoys playing the piano.
You see, she continued with her little sister. This is the strategy that you should follow. Once again, when you deal with such questions, is first, avoid giving short and uncommunicative answers. The second, avoid short yes or no answers. And offer examples to help you explain a statement, for example. If you stated something, don't stop, try to explain.
Why?
Why, or for example, what you mean, what you said, for example, I like to walk in Moscow, yeah? And you can add visiting some interesting places like Red Square, the Kremlin, and beautiful monuments, and some other places you can mention. Okay, so the next part that is called in FCE long turn. Long turn, why? Because you are to speak continuously for about 2 minutes. And don't forget that you will have to communicate with another person, just like you are sitting now. You may come in a couple like this, or you may come, for example, like 3 people may come. And the examiner will switch from one person to another, okay? And you will have 2 sets of photos in your case, and 3 sets of photos in your case. Each of you will have 2 photos, 2 pictures. Let's, for example, imagine that it's different kinds of sports. The first picture depicts extreme sport like skydiving, and the second picture depicts let it be some shaping class, aerobics. These two pictures are in front of you, and the examiner may say something like this. In this part of the test, I'm going to give each of you 2 photographs. I'd like you to talk about your photographs on your own and for about 1 minute, and also to answer a short question about your partner's photographs. You see, the second person should not be relaxed at this moment. He should or she should listen to very attentively, because then he will be asked a question. That's why the examiner proceeds. Candidate A, for example, Alice will be candidate A. Here are your photographs. They show people participating in different sports activities, and I'd like you to compare the 2 photographs and say why sport is important to people. All right, he asks you. You say all right and you proceed. Yes? Who noticed what the instruction was? Because you will have only the photos, you won't have the instruction in front of you. So what is the skill you should show here? What is the skill? Imagination, right, yes, but also you should be very attentive listener. Because if you, for example, missed the question of the examiner, the instruction, you won't be able to proceed. And he asked not only to compare, but also what? To say why sport is important to people. And if you don't answer this question, then your task won't be complete. Okay, let's try to compare, first of all. Let's do it collectively. Let's try to compare extreme sports like skydiving and some amateur sports doing, for example, like shaping, like gymnastics, aerobics. Who wants to compare these 2 kinds of sports? Nikit, will you? So Nikita begins.
And skydiving and aerobics, both of them are helping to people.
Helping people.
Helping people.
Because during them, people stay in good shape.
And feel fit. Yes, and keep fit. Right? Okay, what is the contrast?
For example, skydiving is dangerous for life.
And what about shaping, gymnastics?
It's not dangerous for life.
So, you see, you needed, you used now 2 constructions. It's dangerous, it's not dangerous. How to connect these sentences? Do you know any words that can make your speech flow more smooth and more beautiful? Some words may help you here for comparison. For example, both of the pictures, yes, show us kinds of sports, right? Next one, each of the people depicted in the photo is wearing, for example, a uniform, right? For example, this picture is about extreme sport, whereas the second one, it's about a very calm kind of sport like gymnastics that everyone can do. Such words as both, whereas, each of the picture, for example, it may help you to make your speech smooth, yes, and very in flow very beautifully.
We can say instead of gymnastic, skydiving is more dangerous.
Not instead, but in contrast to gymnastics, skydiving is more dangerous. Right, you are. But these phrases should be already in your head. And before going and passing this speaking part, you should prepare yourselves by revising these structures, okay? This is what I wanted you to know. Then, when, for example, the second part comes, and the second question you remember, why, yes, he said, that he asked you, why do you think this sport can be... Can you remember the question I just Don't remember the question. I'd like you to compare the photographs and say why sport is important to people. So, why sport is important to people? You should explain and express your opinion. How to introduce your opinion? Any phrases?
As for me,
Personally,
Personally, I believe. As for me, I consider. In my opinion, you know, yes? Okay, and will you? Why sport is important?
in my opinion, sport is very important to people's health
Mhm.
as it helps them to keep fit and to be healthy.
Right, you are, and this will be a good continuation. Then, for example, when N stops, the examiner will ask, for example, the other person who was sitting nearby, for example, Sergey, a question about N's answer. Do you do any sports, and is it not about, it's not necessarily about N's answer, but it will be additional. Do you do any sport, and do you visit any maybe sport club?
I'm interested in playing football and going to train that.
And I'm training, for example, regularly, yes? At a football field. Okay, and then you change parts. Then Sergey will speak, and another person will be asked a question, for example, Nikita. And then again, Nikita will speak, and then Anne will be asked a question. So you see? And all this procedure, when there are 2 people, it will take 4 minutes. And when there are 3 people, it will take only 6 minutes. So you see, it should be very, very quickly. And you should not think for a long time. And of course, you have to think it over sometimes. And you have to arrive at some thought or idea. What phrases can help you to hide your, for example, pause in the speech? To hide that you don't know what to say. So you can say it like so, yes, it's in a long way. What else? What other phrases? Some automatic phrases, it's like, oh, it's such an interesting question. I should think it over a little bit. Let me see. Well, okay. Just a moment. And you see all these phrases I just used, maybe they are automatic for me, but I got 10 seconds to think it over, what I want to say. That's why it's a very good skill to use here, so it's another tip. Okay, so then comes part 3. Part 3 is usually called a collaborative task. Collaborative task, it's when you are to work together. Work together, and you got a set of pictures as again, for example, they are united by one topic. The examiner may say something like this: now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. It's when you are 2 people, and about 4 minutes it's when there are 3 people. Okay, I'd like you to imagine that you are planning a week-long touring holiday, with your partner around the country that you are studying in. Imagine, for example, studying in, maybe it's Britain or America. It's you to decide what country you are studying in, okay? You want to see as much as possible, but don't want to spend too much money on transport. As much as possible, not to spend much money. Look at the types of the transport shown on the photographs, and these are photo number 1, it's a bicycle. The second, it's a train. The third, it's a coach, it's like a bus, touring bus. And the fourth, it's a car. And you should, he says, first talk to each other about how useful each of these forms of transport might be, and decide which one would be the best. Not only discuss, but also decide. You should arrive at a decision. And you know that you have only 3 minutes and 4 minutes, for example. So, try to play their situation. Let's talk about it. So, altogether, we are 5 people here, and we are to decide what transport to use. Come on.
Cheap trip with bicycle.
It's too slow.
It's too
I
slow.
think
It's
a
too
car
slow,
is
yes.
more good idea. You'll pay more money, but you should see. You could see. You can see.
You can take so much energy and you can see all you want, I think.
Everything you want.
Everything you want.
For me, transport is the chance to see my friends because they live they live in another district.
So what transport do you choose then?
Underground.
Bicycle, car, train, and coach.
Train.
Continue.
I don't know.
So, train, then?
We never came to a place we need. So if we are...
I also think that train is the best variant because we can see beautiful views and also we can reach long distances by train.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on country you are, because in some countries to rent a car it's cheap. So you can rent a car and visit all places you want.
Let's stop here. You see, guys, there is no conversation. There is conversation of you only with me. Sergey tried to say something, yes, but you do not provoke your partner to speak. And when you are passing, for example, this exam, this one that I'm talking about, you should also show your ability to provoke your interlocutor into a conversation. For example, the first tip you will need is that be prepared, ask your partner for his or her opinion in a simple way. What are the phrases that you can ask your partner for their opinion?
Why do you think so?
Yes, guys, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Yes? What do you think about this idea? Isn't it wonderful? Like this. So how about, for example, you, and how about you, and do you support our idea? Okay? So these are the phrases that you should be able to pop up to this or that interlocutor. Then listen carefully. You should listen carefully to your partner and respond to comments he is giving or he or she is giving. For example, Julia said that she likes, for example, trains. Yes. Then I don't remember, someone here started a new line of thoughts. So you didn't give a comment, right? And when, for example, I am an examiner, I should mark in my, for example, notes that no interaction. You should interact because this is the skill that they are evaluating here. So next tip, if you disagree, for example, with some opinion, you should express your disagreement politely. Nikit, how can you express your disagreement politely?
I'm not agree with.
I do not agree. It's very straightforward. I do not agree with you. You see? I think that your opinion is not important. I think it's not very polite. For example, I see what you mean, but don't you think that this will sound more politely?
Maybe there are some point here, but I think...
Yes, Sergey, good, yes.
That's the point of view.
I can see what you mean, but, for example, but don't you think that something, right? And these are the phrases that may also get the ball rolling, and also you don't offend your interlocutor. You don't say that his opinion doesn't value here, right? Okay, so the next tip, use expressions to allow yourself time to think. Again, here, that's a good question, well, let me think, and it's difficult to say, but, and so on. And also, the fifth tip, you may possibly find you don't understand something when the partner says. Maybe the partner is speaking very slowly, not quietly, for example, and silently, and you can't hear something. How to ask your partner to maybe repeat the information, because it may happen, because you don't know who will come with you to the exam. It's all spontaneous. You come, for example, and some other guy from, I don't know, from America will come, also wants to pass FCE, and he may have some problems with enunciation. You won't hear a word or understand a word, so you should ask him once again about what he has just mentioned. How to ask?
Repeat, please.
Can you express...
Can you please repeat? Yes, or I didn't hear it quite well, right? Like this. So you should be able to, sorry, but could you explain what you mean by this word? Even here, when you don't understand what the interlocutor, for example, is saying, maybe you don't know the word, but you know how to ask about it. Maybe you can say, sorry, Could you explain what you mean by, and repeat, like, for example, this word? And this person who used this word, I think that he's supposed to know, yes, the meaning. He will have to explain it to you then. And that is how you found the way out of the tricky situation. And also, for example, you can say, I'm sorry, I haven't come across this word or expression before. Could you give some more explanation about this subject? And you see, you again solve the problem. So let's try now, once again, speak about this situation when you are to decide what transport to use. But try to interact, will you? Try to interact. Sergey, you will be the first one. Come on. Once again, we should decide on what transport to use while traveling.
I think that car it's a more convenient and comfortable way to visit some place and look sights and to see sights. Is the best variant.
So he finished. You may ask him something. Try to interact.
Please, can you repeat again?
I didn't see the
I
point.
didn't understand what you said.
Well, I wanted to say that the car, the best variant to travel through the country, because you can get to each place you want. You do not need to stay for a long time to the stations waiting for buses or waiting for post,
Train.
train.
By train, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good idea, I think.
Do you agree with me?
What do you think, guys?
So Alice and Sergey got the agreement. And what about others? Do you agree, guys? They asked you.
But I think it's not good for ecological and a lot of cars.
What can you offer to us?
Instead.
For example, bicycle.
But it's too slow, you see.
We don't have time for bicycle. It's too slowly.
It's of course cheaper, but it's not so comfortable. You know that.
But we can go where we need on bicycles and stop when we really needed it.
Can do it by car. Why not?
Bicycles are more ecologically friendly.
Yes.
I think it's so expensive. It will be so expensive.
Don't you think so, guys? Do you agree with me? Can you see my point? Yes, these are all the phrases that will help you to get the ball rolling. You see, because when sometimes you state the statement, it's not ecologically friendly. And the person doesn't know what to answer back, even. Don't you agree with me? You should, for example, pop the conversation and try to continue it. Your task is not to kill the conversation. Your task is to proceed, okay? And you have 4 minutes, and you have to speak about 4 minutes. And 4 minutes, it's a long time. And you should not only be, for example, a king of the conversation yourself, but you should help your partner as well. And this is the skill that the examiner here is looking for. Okay?
Yes.
So this is it. And then, when you, for example, discussed all this, there is the fourth part. The fourth part is discussion. Usually the examiner joins you, yes, and he states questions usually for such people who, for example, didn't have any opportunity to express themselves during the conversation. Maybe they were shy and kept silent, yes, during the conversation. And he may ask the question to this person, but not necessarily. If, for example, everybody was active, he may ask question to anyone. So, for example, I asked you, okay, I see your position, and which sports are popular with young people in your country, for example, when you discussed all this, and for example, you discussed the bicycles, and bicycles are is a very good way to combine, for example, physical training and traveling, right? And I ask you a question: what sports are popular with young people in your country? And
I think that football.
How can you prove it, that it's popular?
There are a lot of sections at schools, and in some a lot of boys go to the stadiums and play this game.
And maybe there is also some event that is coming in May and June that is connected with this sport. Some event connected with it.
Maybe, but I don't.
The World Cup. This is the World, not the World Cup. What do we have? Football Cup. Yes, championship. Yes, it is coming in May and June. That's why everybody, even those who haven't heard about this sport, nowadays they are very keen on it. Yes, and interested in it. The second question I may ask: some people say people don't participate in sport as much as they should. Do you think that it's true, Alice? They don't participate in sport as much as they should, and do you think that it is true?
Participate.
Yes, doing sport, not enough.
Nowadays, to do sport, it became more popular, I think.
It is becoming.
During young people, we can see sport clubs. We can full of young people now. We can see that it became more popular. Stop smoking among young people, and all of them started to do sports. I think it's now it's very popular. And people look at them and want to do sports too.
Okay, and
motivate them.
What advice can you give to a person who is, for example, an office worker or is working all the day long at the desk? Yes, very boring work in front of the computer, no exercise and so on. How to make his or her life more active? What can you advise, Julia?
Maybe to go to work on
Bicycle. To go to work by bicycle, for example. Okay, so this is one advice. What other tips can you give to such a worker?
Doing exercises, running.
Where? At the table? When I'm working at the table? Where can I do this?
After work.
After work. Or maybe, for example, if you're working in an office, you cannot use the lift. Go by stairs, downstairs and upstairs. Right? This is exercising. What else can I do? I'm at the working table. So how can I use maybe the table? Do some stretching, for example, yes? And do some exercises. Stretching is very good for the office workers. Okay, any other tips? How to become more active?
Office yoga.
Office yoga, okay, thank you. Maybe change the work, right? If you want to be more active, change the work, become, for example, a travel agent or someone. Okay, and the last question for today. Do you think team sports are more fun than individual sports, Nikita?
Yes. I think that team sports more fun than individual sports because in team you feel more comfortable.
Is it so for everyone here? Do you really think that team sport is more convenient and comfortable for you psychologically? Raise your hands for whom team sport is more convenient.
I don't think so because I like to do exercise at home when nobody can see me and when I can look strange and funny.
So you are doing it for yourselves, yes? For yourself individually. And when you are, for example, on public, you want to look gorgeous. Yes, not, for example, sweating or maybe with some messy hair during some exercises. I understand what you mean. Okay, so, and you see, this is the conversation. Now here, I am very active as an examiner. When you are at the FCE, the examiner won't be so active and won't be so involving. Maybe he or she will only state the questions, and it's up to you to be active and try to and try to participate in the conversation, try to provoke for some answers, right? That's why it's another skill that you should acquire. For this, what tips I can give? First of all, avoid saying yes or no questions and yes or no answers, so that not to kill the conversation. And be very attentive to your interlocutor, and even if the interlocutor is keeping silent, try to maybe give a clue for the further development of the conversation. And for this, of course, you should practice more. So this is the last advice that I can give to you. Here my so to say lecture is finished.